复归中央人民政府今天胜利了。
为建设富强、民主、文明、和谐、美丽的社会主义现代化强国努力奋斗。
On June the 5th, 2019, Xi Jinping arrived in Moscow for his 8th state visit to Russia. It marked the start of a month of intense diplomatic work by the Chinese president. From Russia, Xi Jinping traveled to Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, the DPRK, and Japan. He attended 4 international meetings and participated in around 90 bilateral and multilateral events. It was the most intense round of state diplomacy by a Chinese head of state in a single month since the PRC's founding 70 years earlier. At a time when the situation globally was in crisis, the world was taking note of China's success in making friends, forging consensus, and promoting a community of shared future for mankind. Xi Jinping arrived in Russia a day before the traditional start of the late summer harvest in China. Abroad, China was harvesting the bountiful fruit of its great power diplomacy. In the vastness of the universe, this beautiful blue planet is the home shared by the whole of humanity, with all their various hopes and dreams. In the 21st century, economic globalization means goods, capital, information, and people can move freely. The internet and other infrastructure is making the world increasingly interconnected. As the concept of the global village becomes reality, individual destinies are becoming more tightly knit together. Yet the world is a complex, changeable, and not at all peaceful place. Regional conflicts, power politics, terrorism, income inequality, protectionism. Humanity is facing global problems of an unprecedented number, scale, and severity. The transformation that is underway is greater than anything seen in the last century. At this key juncture, as people try to work out what is happening with the world and how to fix it, China has proposed a solution.
中国方案是 构建人类命运共同体，实现共赢共享。
On December the 5th, 2012, 20 experts from 16 countries were invited to the Great Hall of the People in Beijing for an informal meeting with the newly elected CPC General Secretary Xi Jinping. Xi told the experts, "Our cause is the cause of win-win cooperation with all countries. The world is increasingly becoming a community with a common future in which all countries are interdependent." It was the first time he had imparted China's new thinking on humanity's destiny to a foreign audience. At several subsequent diplomatic events, he expounded on the concept of a community of shared future for mankind. The concept is deeply rooted in traditional Chinese culture, which emphasizes the whole, or all under heaven. It's also the natural development of traditional diplomacy. From the 5 principles of mutual coexistence to the community of shared future for mankind, Chinese diplomacy, while evolving over the past 70 years, has always stuck to the principle of peaceful development. China consistently adheres to a peaceful foreign policy. It respects the right of every country to choose its own development path, and it upholds international justice and opposes interference in internal politics. China, no matter how much it develops, will never strive for hegemony over other countries or seek to expand its territory. China's proposal to build a community of shared future for mankind coincided with its rising global influence. The concept enshrines the overall goal and defining feature of great power diplomacy with Chinese characteristics for the new era. On July the 22nd, 2019, Xi Jinping met Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan of Abu Dhabi at the Diaoyu Tai State Guest House in Beijing. During the meeting, President Xi emphasized that Chinese civilization has continuously developed in an inclusive manner. The Belt and Road Initiative is aimed at promoting exchanges and cooperation between different countries. After the concept comes action. The Belt and Road Initiative is a platform for building a community of shared future for mankind. By spreading the Silk Road spirit, it is knitting the destinies of many countries tightly together. This ceramic camel carrying musicians is on display at Shanxi History Museum. It represents a mixture of Chinese and Central Asian culture. The musicians are dressed in Han Chinese clothes and playing instruments from the Western regions. The long scroll of human history carries stories of many Silk Road traders who journeyed long and far. Centuries later, Xi Jinping has enhanced their stories with a new blueprint for win-win cooperation. On September the 7th, 2013, in a speech in Kazakhstan, which lies on the route of the ancient Silk Road, Xi Jinping proposed jointly establishing a Silk Road economic belt.
我们可以用创新的合作模式，共同建设丝绸之路经济带，这是一项造福沿途各国人民的大事业。
Just under 4 weeks later, during a visit to Indonesia, which lies on the ancient maritime Silk Road, he proposed jointly establishing a maritime Silk Road for the 21st century.
中国愿同东盟国家共同建设21世纪海上丝绸之路。
The Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road together comprise the Belt and Road Initiative. Thanks to Xi Jinping, the world has rediscovered the old trade routes that had once brought prosperity to the countries along them. On December the 2nd, 2014, the CPC Central Committee and State Council issued the Strategic Program for the Construction of the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road. Many countries were quick to respond, saying they would join in developing the initiative in the hope of benefiting from it. When it's complete, the China-Belarus Industrial Park near Minsk will become a major trade hub on the Eurasian continent. In East Africa, the Mombasa to Nairobi Railway offers convenient transport as well as employment opportunities. In Greece, the formerly struggling port of Piraeus rose from 93rd to 32nd place on a global ranking of ports after receiving Chinese investment. In Yiwu City in China, more than 1.8 million types of commodities are loaded onto the China Railway Express to Europe. Red wine, olive oil, and large equipment travel the other way. In Beijing, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the Silk Road Fund are injecting financial momentum into the Belt and Road Initiative. The benefits of the initiative are clear. From 2013 to 2018, total trade in goods between China and the Belt and Road countries exceeded $6 trillion, accounting for 30% of China's trade in goods.
We see the Belt and Road Initiative as the most relevant project, which we hope will contribute to a more fair globalization. And a more fair globalization is the best way to have a future of shared prosperity for the different nations of the world.
The trend is positive, and the achievements are already significant. In 2017, China hosted the first Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, followed by another one in 2019. At the second meeting, more than 6,000 representatives from 150 countries and 92 international organizations gathered in Beijing. They generated 283 positive proposals. The initiative is supported by the 5 key pillars of policy, infrastructure, trade, finance, and people-to-people contacts. As it develops, so a shining model of inclusiveness, openness, and the traditional wisdom of harmony and diversity is taking shape. China and her partners, as they complete the details of their BRI model, are raising it to a new level of high-quality development. Over 2,000 years ago, silk, tea, and pottery were carried back and forth on the Silk Road, along with good wishes. Today, the Belt and Road tie the destinies of many countries together. China and the world, as they advance along this bright path, are sharing opportunities and building a future together. However, since 2017, protectionism and unilateralism have been on the rise around the world. The US has provoked a trade war with China that is causing worldwide concern. Many countries are worried about the prospects for global economic development. The Sino-American relationship is one of the most important on Earth. Together, the two countries account for 1/3 of the world's economy, 1/4 of its population, and 1/5 of its trade. History and the reality tell us that the two countries benefit from working together. However, since 2018, the US has been exerting constant pressure on China. By provoking and then escalating the trade war, it has caused serious damage to the economies of both countries. China's resolute response to the mounting American pressure is aimed at protecting the interests of both countries and the global economic order. Xi Jinping has met President Trump on several occasions and spoken to him on the phone a number of times to discuss trade and bilateral relations. The two countries have also held more than 10 rounds of high-level trade talks. While negotiating in good faith, China has stuck firmly to its principles and protected its interests. Though reluctant to enter a fight, China will do so if it has to. The choice between confrontation or cooperation, closing off or opening up, unilateralism or multilateralism, boils down to a choice between hegemony or building a community of shared future for mankind. It's a question that concerns the future development of the world. To answer it, China has put forward clear proposals, taken calm decisions, and shown a firm willingness to act. China has the will, confidence, and ability to protect its legitimate rights and interests. The just do not fear the long path ahead. Keeping its gaze fixed firmly on the bigger picture, China will continue to support a multilateral trade system, open its economy, and contribute to global development. China is prepared to work with the US to establish a relationship based on coordination, cooperation, and stability, with the ultimate aim of jointly building a community of shared future for mankind and a better future for all. In China's northeastern Heilongjiang province, a bridge is nearing completion. It links the Chinese city of Heihe and the Russian city of Blagoveshchensk. The first highway bridge across the Sino-Russian border. It's known in Russia as the Friendship Bridge. It's a powerful symbol of the current positive relationship between the two countries. For many years, China and Russia have been prioritizing their mutual relations. In March 2013, with spring about to arrive, the eyes of the world were trained on the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. There, Xi Jinping gave a speech in which he proposed the concept of a new type of international relations. It's an innovative concept of encouraging mutual respect, fairness, justice, and win-win cooperation. While furthering the Charter and principles of the UN, it transcends the traditional Western framework of international relations. It represents a major theoretical contribution by China, a country with a long history and a tradition of peace, to the question of how countries should coexist. Guided by the concept of a new type of international relations, the heads of state of Russia and China have, in the course of several years, held frequent meetings which have served to raise bilateral relations to a historic high. It's a relationship that has global significance. Both countries are permanent members of the UN Security Council. By cooperating closely on international and local issues, they are pushing the world order in the direction of fairer and more rational development. They are also playing a greater role in maintaining the international balance of power and strategic stability. In June 2019, on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations, Xi Jinping again visited Russia. During his stay, he was invited by President Putin to take a boat on the Neva River in St. Petersburg. While enjoying the scenery, the two heads of state talked about history, friendship, and the future. They then toured the cruiser Aurora, whose guns sounded the beginning of the October Revolution in 1917. Xi Jinping referred to the cruiser's importance for the Chinese people.
这一次和普京总统来参观这里，你也知道这个对中国意味着什么。中国我们一直讲的是十月革命一声炮响，给中国送来了马克思主义，成立了中国共产党。所以它和中国的这种渊源关系在我们心中是很重视的。
The visit built on the past and looked to the future. The two presidents agreed a framework for comprehensive cooperation between their two countries. They signed a joint statement announcing a new era of Sino-Russian strategic partnership. A partnership based on solid foundations defies geographical distance. Today's Sino-Russian relationship is a model for a new type of international relations. It is also a clear example of how China aims to benefit its neighbors by treating them as its partners. On January the 7th, 2019, Xi Jinping received his first foreign visitor of the year, DPRK leader Kim Jong-un. It was the fourth meeting between the two leaders in 10 months. On June the 20th, 2019, Xi Jinping visited the DPRK. In just over 12 months, the two leaders had met 5 times. Their close interaction opened a new chapter of friendship between their countries. Its neighbors share a similar culture and interests with China. Because of this, they are the ideal starting point for building a community of shared future for mankind. In October 2013, at the first seminar on neighborhood diplomacy, Xi Jinping proposed that major issues between neighboring countries should be resolved on the principles of amity, sincerity, mutual benefit, and inclusiveness. Xi Jinping also promised that China would cherish friendships, visit frequently, and be active in its relations with its neighbors. It's a promise he has honored in person. Half of his state visits in the last 6 years have been to 20 countries in Northeast, Southeast, South, and Central Asia. The demeanor of China's leader and the effectiveness of his diplomacy have helped China create a bigger pie for itself and its neighbors to share. China has consistently demonstrated its adherence to building a community of shared future for mankind. In numerous multilateral arenas, it has shown its determination to stand by other countries through thick and thin. At the 2018 Beijing summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, Xi Jinping stated, "China will work with Africa to achieve our shared goal of building a closer China-Africa community with a shared future, and turn it into a pace setter for building such a community for mankind." For the past 10 years, China has been Africa's biggest trading partner and has invested over $110 billion in the continent. At the 2014 APEC Economic Leaders meeting in Beijing, China proposed a plan for deeper and more substantial cooperation in the Asia-Pacific region. At the 2016 G20 summit in Hangzhou, China pushed through a series of groundbreaking institutional initiatives designed to promote a long-term approach to global governance. At the 2017 World Economic Forum in Davos, Xi Jinping was widely praised by the international community for his advocacy of steering economic globalization towards openness, inclusiveness, mutual benefit, balance, and win-win cooperation. As the BRICS countries celebrated their first golden decade at the group's 2017 summit, they undertook to continue demonstrating an open, inclusive, and win-win spirit. They also committed themselves to wide-ranging, concrete cooperation. The BRICS countries have been working hard to establish a new type of international relations. They have become pace-setters in building a community of shared future for mankind. Those who truly understand each other feel close even when far apart. In 2014, Xi Jinping attended the first China, Latin American, and Caribbean countries leaders meeting. The participants agreed to establish a partnership based on mutual benefit and shared development. As a result, the China-CELAC Forum was founded. Since the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, Xi Jinping has traveled to Latin America on 4 occasions. These visits have achieved historic advances in relations. In just over a year, from June 2017 to August 2018, China established diplomatic relations with Panama, the Dominican Republic, and El Salvador. These breakthroughs demonstrated how China was gaining new friends and partners by building the Belt and Road and creating a community of shared future for mankind. In 2018, the APEC Economic Leaders Summit was held in Papua New Guinea. At the meeting, China expressed its belief that big and small countries share the same destiny. It participated actively in the discussions and engaged in in-depth exchanges with several parties on key issues, such as regional economic integration and the digital economy. On March the 31st, 2014, Xi Jinping became the first Chinese head of state to visit the headquarters of the European Union in Brussels. During the visit, he described China's policy towards Europe as consisting of several bridges.
我们要共同努力建造和平、增长、改革、文明四座桥梁，建设更具全球影响力的中欧全面战略伙伴关系。
From Berlin to Paris to London, from Helsinki near the Arctic Circle to the island of Rhodes in the Aegean Sea, Xi Jinping has blazed a trail for a new type of Sino-European relations. China is also making steady progress in its cooperation with 17 Central and Eastern European countries. By actively promoting the 17+1 initiative, Xi Jinping is linking the Belt and Road Initiative with China-Europe relations and seeking common development and prosperity for China and Central and Eastern Europe. On December the 12th, 2015, the world achieved a historic milestone. The international community finally reached an agreement on fighting climate change. This was possible thanks to a significant contribution from China.
Il y avait quelques pays qui étaient quand même un peu réticents. Alors je suis allé voir mon collègue et ami chinois, avec qui nous avons travaillé ensemble. Il m'a dit, le président Xi m'a dit qu'il fallait que ce soit un succès, je vais t'aider. Il est revenu une heure après et m'a dit, pour les pays dont tu m'as parlé, c'est d'accord.
China, in pursuing the principle of a shared destiny, employs win-win solutions. As a participant in, builder of, and contributor to the current international system of governance, Chinese diplomacy is making rapid progress. From the renminbi being included in the International Monetary Fund's special drawing rights basket, to fields such as outer space, the internet, the deep sea, the polar regions, and climate change, China is participating actively in the creation of international rules and regulations. In all this, it is acting as a positive force in peaceful global development. Simultaneously, the CPC is working continuously to strengthen its dialogue with other ruling parties around the world. In November 2017, a high-level meeting was held in Beijing on the theme of the CPC in dialogue with world political parties. It was the first time the CPC had been involved in discussions with so many other political parties from around the world at such a high level. The meeting served to raise the CPC's profile in the field of political diplomacy. The main topic of the dialogue was working together towards a community with a shared future for humanity and a better world, responsibilities of political parties. A shared future. Achieving it is the responsibility assumed by the CPC and the aspiration of its members.
"中国将积极参与全球治理体系建设，努力为完善全球治理贡献中国智慧，同世界各国人民一道，推动国际秩序和全球治理体系朝着更加公正合理方向发展。"
On February the 10th, 2017, the 55th session of the UN Commission for Social Development adopted the resolution, Social Dimensions of the New Partnership for Africa's Development. For the first time, a UN resolution contained a reference to a community of shared future for mankind. Having subsequently appeared in several other UN documents, the concept is now demonstrating its influence, appeal, and formative power.
Chinese President Xi Jinping must have been acting on the basis of his belief that we are living in a community of shared destiny. When you have that kind of vision that we are sharing all same destiny, then we cannot but be global citizens and cooperating each other.
China is striving to build a peaceful, safe, prosperous, open and clean world and to create a community of shared future for mankind. And the world is yearning to hear China's voice and is looking to it for wisdom and solutions. The East is rising and attracting guests from afar. On November the 5th, 2018, 3,000 companies and 400,000 traders met in Shanghai to discuss cooperation. They represented 172 countries, regions, and international organizations. The event was highly significant. As the world's first import-themed national-level exhibition, the CIIE represented a major effort by China to open up its market to the world. It was a clear demonstration of support for free trade and economic globalization. China's creativity and demeanor are those of a great power.
中国推动更高水平开放的脚步不会停滞。中国推动建设开放型世界经济的脚步不会停滞。中国推动构建人类命运共同体的脚步不会停止。
Since the 18th CPC National Congress, Xi Jinping has been leading China's rise to prominence in the international arena. Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy as a guide for great power diplomacy with Chinese characteristics is pointing the way forward to a brighter future for mankind. The world is at a new historic starting point. China, as it strives to realize the dream of the great rejuvenation of the nation, is also working with the world for a better future.
降生在你的怀里，我的血。